Howdy, lieutenants and economists.
The most volatile, evil, disgusting things on the planet, humans. If you have a video request, you can always go to assholeconsulting.com.
Yeah, I am gonna charge you, kids. And that is the importance of not fucking up.
You are such an asshole!
Aaron, there's been a lot of talk about slavery, reparations lately, and it both enrages me and scares the shit out of me. I'm ready to punch holes in the fucking wall. Most of my ancestors were poor Italian immigrants that came here in the late 1800s, early 1900s. I know for a fact they did not own slaves. So how can you say I have to pay reparations for the sins of my ancestors? Most importantly, I myself had nothing to do with slavery. I had no control over what happened in the past, so why should I have to pay reparations? I worked my ass off for my money. It enrages me that other people think they're entitled to it. Oh, this is new to you? Is this a new issue? Were people talking about slavery reparations 20 years ago when you were my age? They were. Also, how likely do you think this is to actually happen? Polls show that a lot of Americans are in favor of it. If it does happen, what should we do about it? Thanks. All right, well, let's talk about what is slavery reparations? We're not going to talk about what that means, because words no longer have meaning. Slavery reparations would mean the slaveholders would pay back the slaves money they'd owe them for all the free labor they gave. Slavery reparations today is just one of the many new ways by which the left is going to get money out of the right, by which the parasites are going to get money out of producers. You have to, it's very important that you understand this. The left, it doesn't matter black or white, or this is outside of race, the left's job is to basically live off of the right. They are parasites, we are producers. Right? But they can't just admit that. They can't just say, well, I'm a lazy, no good fuck, and I don't want to work. I want to spit out as many kids as I have. I don't want to major in stupid crap if I major in anything at all. I want to sit here. I want my gimme dats. I want to go down to the 7-Eleven with my EBT card and live off of you guys. But they have to have a reason. They have to have an explanation. So what the left, the professional left, if we want to call them that, work hardest at is coming up with the most outlandish excuses as to why they are entitled to your money, right? And again, this transcends race or anything like that. Now, race is an obvious go-to. Oh, I have this color skin, you have that color skin, ergo you owe me money because you have privilege and I don't. Another one would be gender. Oh, you have that type of plumbing, I have this type of plumbing. You are oppressing me, therefore give me that. Give me free health, give me preferential hiring treatment. And as I've pointed out before, this is just merely the latest incarnation of it, is I have the his, I have the Asperger's, I have the autisms, I have the social anxieties, I have this, I have that. Give me money. If you don't think that's happening, there are people who claim that, I can't work, I have depression, and they collect SSI, Social Security Disability. You are ableist, you have mental health, I can't work, give me the gimme that's, right? This is just one of many old excuses in the toolbox of the left. Now the left conveniently, well not conveniently, but consciously and knowingly ignores any logic, any reason or rationalization that the vast majority of people did not own slaves. The vast majority of people here in the no one here in the United States exists anymore that was there during the slave age. So there are no slaves left anymore, there are no slave owners anymore. The vast majority of descendants of people did not descend from slave owners because, as you point out, the migration from Europe in the late 1800s, early 1900s, which then begat the plurality, at least if not the majority of people today, they never owned slaves. And you could even argue if you're from Ireland or some other place that you were at one time descendants of slaves too, either of the Vikings, well actually all of Europe was technically slaves of the Vikings at one time. They could believe it, oh no, you're white, you somehow are attached to owning slaves. Why? Because we need you to, so we can go as professional leftists buy the votes of blacks. Even though blacks today have never been slaves, may have been descendants of slaves, they may have been disadvantaged. That's certainly true because their great-great-great-great-grandfather were slaves. I'm not discounting that. Well, who's going to pay? Well, you white bastards. You white people. Meanwhile, the Latinos are just, I'm going to shut the hell up about this one. Be quiet over here, and I'm going to drink my coffee. That's all. Speaking of which, I should have my coffee. So this is just a money grab. It's intellectually dishonest, deceitful, and lying money grab. And yeah, you're right. Everything you said is right. I think I'm in the same situation. Actually, my family found out came through Canada. So I should be like super nice guy. Look at me, I'm a freaking Canadian technically. Nobody owes anybody shit for slavery. Nobody. Now, I would even make, now if you want to be intellectually honest, I would make the argument, and I did the calculation, I'm not going to look it up. But if you look at the amount of government money blacks receive disproportionately to whites and Latinos, or simply non-blacks, as a proportion to what they should have received. They're 12% of the population, they should have received 12%, and I did the math and the calculation, and they've received over the decades since 1968 or 71. I picked that either because of Nixon or that's when we started running deficits. The black community has received between 6 and 8 trillion more than they should have based on their proportionality of the population. Now, of course, these are estimates, and I'm an economist, and, you know, is it between 6 and 8? No, it could be 5 something, it could be 10 something. Just my rough ballpark methodology had it parked in there, the multiple trillions of dollars in the $6 to $8 trillion range. The black community has received beyond what they should have based on their population. And again, I'm not necessarily saying that descendants of slaves didn't have a disadvantage. They certainly did. And then let's also not forget other forms of discrimination that were real. The Jim Crow laws, which people today in the black community still alive today, they're old, they endured. So I'm not necessarily like, yeah, affirmative action maybe it should, but now it's worn out, it's welcome. Okay, yeah, you know what, maybe you're right, you should deserve a layout. Well, that time is long gone by any objective measure, either through handicaps, leg ups, outright income transfers, and then now it's gone so far. See, when the Democrats give money to the black community, it's to buy votes. They don't care what the black community does with it. Like, okay, buy for us, yay. It has not done anything to really help out the black community. Regardless, that is all gone. If there has been any reparations paid, it has been through the charity and kindness of non-slave generations of Americans who have paid more in taxes. We've given legs up. We've lowered the standards, affirmative action, which, by the way, now it hasn't worked and is actually harming young black men and women today. And so if you want to read my book, Black Man's Guide Out of Poverty, that's a separate issue about the practicality and the efficacy of all this help that we've given the black community. But from the argument of, if you want to be intellectually honest, if you want to actually go down to their level and think they're being intellectually honest with you about reparations, which they're not, you can say, well, we've given up, they're not going to listen to it. And I don't know if you've noticed this about Democrats. They don't care about facts, reason, logic, or intellectual honesty. They just want their money. And if you go in there and you say, well, then you're racist, I almost guarantee you that's the way this is going to go. It's like, no, I'm actually quite not racist. Here, I'll show you. Where is it? Oh, I packed it. Damn it, they're gone. I always like, look up the Black Man's Guide Out of Poverty. Just look it up. Who's this Aaron Cleary asshole? That's me. Still want to call me a racist? The problem is, for the Democrats and for the left and the parasitic class, it's never been about anything as moral as race or helping out the poor or the disadvantaged. They just, either the professional left, namely the Democrat Party, wants to get elected, and they will tell whatever everybody wants to hear, the parasites want to hear, and here's your money, or you are parasitic left, and you just want your gimme ads, because you don't want to work, because you don't want, and if you, again, this goes be a perfect example. Here's another perfect example. Let's talk about something purely in white world. The millennials wanting to be bailed out of their student loans. They made a stupid decision. They were parasitic. They borrowed more money than they could ever pay back. And what's their... Now, these are college-educated kids. These are smart kids. But they somehow don't understand how loans work or compounded interest works. You know, like, we got duped. We're the smartest generation ever. We're so independent-minded. We know those baby boomers, but they duped us. We need to get bailed out. We got screwed. It's like, no, you damn well knew how a loan worked. You're just trying to get free. Give me that. Right? And if you say that, well, you hate the future, you just don't want us to succeed, and da da da, it's like, no, I would like you to succeed, you're just not capable of it because you're millennials. And all you millennials who tune into the show, you know I kid, because I know there are some good ones out there. But that's my point. It has nothing to do with the excuse that the Democrats and the left give you. It's not about slavery, it's not about reparations, it's not about addressing people with mental illness. It's not addressing people who have closing the wage gap, whether you be it a racial wage gap or a sexual wage gap. It's just the latest excuse for the professional left to take more of the producer's money and bribe the parasitic class with it. That's it. All right? And slavery reparations kind of works pretty well because, yeah, you know, slavery does suck. That's not a good thing. And there's some good arguments for slavery reparations. Right? You might want to think about that. Of course, a lot of times, as is the case, and pretty much all of slavery history, everyone's dead now. So it's kind of moot and that, but they don't care. It's a good excuse. Right? So yeah, that has been talked about since slavery ended. Hey, shouldn't we get paid? Yeah, you guys should get paid. The ones that, yeah, you guys should. But now it's just it's always any way to get money. Any way to get money. So that was going on. It was talked about back in the day. So to ask, I just want to go through all your questions. So how can you say I have to pay reparations for sins of my ancestors? Well, one, that your ancestors didn't have those sins. They can't say, but they're going to say it anyway because they want to steal from you. That's the simplest. They want to steal from you. And unlike a real thief who has to have the balls to face you and risk you having a gun or a knife or fighting, they're going to have the government force and take it from you. That's what despicable, cowardly parasites they are. Most importantly, I myself have nothing to do with slavery. I have no control over what happened to the past, so why should I have to pay reparations? You shouldn't. You are absolutely 100% morally, logically correct. You should not have to pay the vast majority. I'd be hard pressed. I mean, there might be some companies that still somehow to this day may have had an advantage. One of my favorites is, well, the country was built off of the backs of slaves. And you could say the southern part of the country, yes, it was. And then what ended up happening is the North went in there and we destroyed the southern economy. So most of the economy, if not all of it today, is not built on the back of slaves because that old slave economy was destroyed in the Civil War. And if you don't look up the Reconstruction era, that'd be like saying, after World War II, 20 years later, things are kicking ass, we're doing well in the mid-60s. Like, the world economy was built on the back of Nazis. Like, no, we kind of destroyed their economy. Not one GDP, not one Reichmark has been produced. We really thoroughly destroyed that. So why should you have to pay reparations? You shouldn't. I work my ass off for my money, and it enrages me that other people think they're entitled to it. As it should be. They're thieves. They're parasites. They're worse than thieves. They're cowardly parasites. Again, thieves have to take a risk. Okay? They got to take a risk. These guys are weaklings and cowards. Is this a new issue? No, it is not. It's been talking around. Were people talking about slavery reparations 20 years ago when you were my age? Yes, they were. Also, how likely do you think it is that this will actually happen? It may happen in your age, in your lifetime, probably not mine. Because for the most part, I still think Gen X, baby boomers are dying off here pretty soon. But the baby boomers aren't going to fall for that. Because they like their money. Gen X isn't going to fall for it. The millennials and Gen Zers might. Because for the first time, starting with the millennials and now continuing on with Gen Z, you guys have been brainwashed to believe that your politics is the number one thing that matters. You've been completely removed from being a self-supporting adult, from being an independent adult and having accomplishments like I have a career, I've created this thing, I've produced this stuff, I bought this house, I raised a family. That has been blank slated, and actual real legitimate accomplishing virtues and achievements in your life have been replaced with, what do I believe? I believe you did, I believe that. And you can see this in college where pretty much everything is paid for, at least in the short term. Where, what was it, Yale? Where they agreed, the students voted in that they would pay reparations for book fees or some jerking off in front of the mirror, look how holier, virtue signaling we are than thou. If that continues on, kind of like a proxy similar to like Black Lives Matter. Do you know who the vast majority of participants are in Black Lives Matter? White people. Kind of like those type of people. If that thought expands throughout younger generations of white people, they will vote in their own enslavement through reparations. They won't pay because they think, well, we'll just tax the rich people. We'll just have a wealth tax. Somebody else will pay. Why is there no jobs? What happened to the economy? That might happen under your watch, but son, I'll be dead by that time. And I'm terribly sorry, but yeah, it could happen. It really could. But I don't know if I'd really be what's more likely to happen, because more emphasis is put on this, and the black community only, again, if you're black or you're a minority, you hate my guts, please hear me out on this. What's more likely to happen is you're going to have reparations for women, because it's more prominent, they're a larger percentage of the population, it's more popular now. That's where the emphasis is. And women account for, well, 51% because men die off early because you women drive us to an early grave. Whereas blacks are only a 12% of the population. So there's more political power, more votes to get by claiming you're going to close the wage gap. So I think the majority of the professional left's activities, emphasis, lobbying, and politicking and legislation that'll be tendered in various legislatures at the state and congressional and city councils will be targeting towards women. That is going to be the favorite minority group of the left. And I think you will see, you already see reparations in a different sense of affirmative action, more scholarships, more hand-me-outs. When it comes to women, infants and children, EBT, more programs, and we can talk about divorce and all that later. But you're going to see more of an emphasis put on women and the wage gap than you are slavery reparations, because that is to a bigger political advantage for the Democrat and Socialist parties out there. So I don't think you're going to actually see slavery reparations. There might be talk of it, and it might happen on a micro level, like at that university. Maybe some cities will, because they'll be just so forward and progressive, like a Seattle. I think there's 2 black people in Seattle. There's 1 black guy in Portland. And the self-loathing white people, look how progressive, and then there's Bob, the black guy. Lord knows he might even be a Republican. And like, here, us, the city council of Portland, give you a reparations check. Are we so great? We're so great. And then Bob's like, yeah, thanks a lot, yeah. Get the fuck out of here. I'm going down to Vegas where it's warm. So you'll see that on a smaller level, like city councils might do that to say, look how forward and progressive we are. Schools, maybe counties. But at the national level, I think you're going to see female reparations before you see slave reparations. How likely do you think it's actually to happen? I think it'll happen, maybe not like, hey, here's a check like the Simpsons episode, here's the $1 trillion check for the Marshall Plan. I don't think it'll be as clear as that, but it's already happening to a certain level. And I think it'll continue to grow, but it won't be as clear. Because here's the problem. If they ever did the Montgomery Burns Simpson $1 trillion check, and they're like, okay, we're done. No, you can complain about slavery, you're not getting any more. They need to have a constant complaint that, we're still oppressed. So the Democrats have got to worry about it's do you want a lifelong perpetuity? Do you want a lifelong pension? Or do you want your severance check, your big payout up front? Because then you can't get no more. I think the Democrats will milk it for as much as... Because then they lose this thing, well, we already had that conversation about race, and it's up to you now. I don't think that'll ever happen. What should we do about it? Prepare to enjoy the decline. Read my book, Enjoy the Decline. Be prepared to move overseas. That's something I think a lot of younger, harder working... I mean, I thought I'd have to do it. I don't think I'm going to have to. Now, it's part of my plan. I mean, there is a contingency plan. I'm prepared to move overseas. But it's not there yet. There's a lot of places within the United States you don't have to deal with this stuff, at least culturally. But if you were a Gen Z or a younger millennial, and you aren't swallowing the Kool-Aid, and you are a producer, you are not a parasite, be no mistake about it, boys and girls, this is becoming a parasitic nation. Okay? Half the population collects some form of a government check. Now, admittedly, a lot of that is Social Security. But just think about it. Half the population would not survive without a government check. And that is, by definition, parasitism. All right? So there's the Philippines. I'm very curious about Russia. Putin's not going to live forever, but man, Putin just like, I got zero fucks for you to give, man. Just either you survive or not. There are more meritocratic countries out there that you may want to think about living in. And that's why you got to do your reconnaissance now. That's why you got to do it now. It's a paradox. It's a problem because a lot of you, like when I was younger, you were poor. You didn't have money to go travel. And what money were they going to take? Even now, it's well, yeah. Unless for some ungodly reason I make it into the six-figure category, my tax rates are relatively low. I don't have a ton in assets for people to take. I mean, so you got to consider that. It may be unfair, but they're going to go after the rich people, not, average you and me. And so, again, kind of like the Enjoy the Decline, I just enjoy the United States. Read that book, Enjoy the Decline, and then read Reconnaissance, man. Country's a beautiful country. There's lots to do, lots of places to check out. But yeah, if it gets to the point where we're going to enslave you, people who are innocent, then even I would draw the line there. I'm like, no, yeah, you know what? You're not. Go fuck yourself. I'm out of here. And then watch it become another Zimbabwe or South Africa. All right. Questions, answers, AskSoulConsulting.com. We'll see you guys later. Tools.